Well, good morning, everyone. This is John Craig, and thank you for being part of Let Us Reason Together. Yep, this is another good morning. Got a great show planned for everyone today, and really excited about some of the things we're going to be discussing. And so, what is Let Us Reason Together about? Well, it's about Isaiah 118, which says, "Come now, let us reason together, says Yahweh. Though your sins are as scarlet, they will be as white as snow. Though they are red like crimson, they will be like wool." This is where we sit down and reason out current events, cultural shifts. Of course, this week's Torah portion, so we can either push back or push through. But nevertheless, if iron does not sharpen iron, sparks will never fly, let alone ever get a fire going. So why not have a little heat and a good midrash so that our hearts are soft and moldable enough to be transformed in the way that the Spirit, the Ruach HaKodesh, wants us to be, and maybe have a little fun along the way. We got headlines from around the world. You want to stay tuned for that. We've got shower thoughts for you today. I've got some good ones. You want to hear that? And we've got a Torah portion plan that's going to be off the charts. And then, of course, you're going to want to stick around in 1 hour where we have the uncensored news. We got some things to talk about today. I'm excited to bring to your attention. And what about the verse of the day? Well, I have the verse of the day, which is kind of a mix between in the Torah portion, Brit Hadashah part of that, one verse, and then an additional verse, because I think they join together, both found in Luke chapter 24, where in Luke 24:7, where Yeshua, the Messiah, is walking with the two on the road to Emmaus. And he says this, it talks about this conversation that they're having. And in Luke 24:27, then beginning with Moses and with all the prophets, he explained to them the things concerning himself in all the scriptures. Well, what? Okay. Skip down to verse 44, and Yeshua continues. Now he said to them, "These are my words, which I spoke to you while I was with you, that all things which are written about me in the law of Moses, in the Torah of Moses, and the prophets and the Psalms must be fulfilled." So isn't that very interesting? Saying all these things together, the word that was written before are his words. So, all right. So all you friends of ours over in the, how should I say this? Those that are our apostolic friends, our New Testament friends, let's just remember that all of the words are Yeshua's words. And if they're his words, did he delete any of them? I don't think so. Okay, that's all I wanted to say about that, because it's a soapbox and I don't want to offend anybody, but I just want you to reason together with us about all of the words. All right. Oh, with all that said, I have a wonderful co-host joining me today. And so who is this wonderful co-host? Well, here she comes. Good morning, Miss Sandi Craig. How are you?
Good morning.
You are looking just lovely.
I have a question.
So you say, well, thank you.
Thank you. But why do you only say those words when we're on air?
Well,
because you don't say them any other time.
Well, because I don't say them as much as I ought to. And so it's a good opportunity.
So you only say them when you're in front of others?
No, well, it's a good opportunity. Let me just say that. All right.
All right.
Maybe
okay,
you're right. I should say that every day. Every time I see you.
No.
When I see you in the morning, when I see you in the evening, as lovely as always.
No, why
hey,
don't you just
so hey, we're missing Eddie and Tammy Johnson today.
I guarantee they're listening.
They are, because look, we're watching from the hospital room this morning.
I knew they would be listening.
So they are with us in spirit, even though they cannot be present. So it's good to have you. And Joe showed up there in the chat room. It's good to see you this morning, Joe. And
Joe, that's what I was relating to. What you just said in chat is what I was saying too. Yeah. So
know. I don't know why it works that way. It's
said,
always thinking about it, but
it never comes out of your mouth because I can't read your mind.
It needs to make sometimes there's a brain disconnect between what I think and what I say.
But then all of a sudden you go on air and then you become a different brain?
Because the brain is working differently. I don't know. Okay. I apologize for not saying enough, my dear.
That's not what I want. I only want it when it's true.
Busted.
Not when
my
it's
beloved tells me I'm beautiful all the time. Then I tell him well, Tammy,
you're blessed.
You're blessed. Okay. All right. I'm in a hole. Got to dig out of it. All right. So it doesn't mean. Okay. All right. I think it's time that we have some headlines from around the world because
you got to get out of it some way.
I got to change the subject. We need to train them in some way. They should, the way they should. All right, Joe, you're right. We need retraining. We men, but Eddie does it right.
Eddie does it right. What a great guy.
He does it right.
Learn from your elders. He's a teeny bit older, just this much older than you.
He is.
This much.
It is that much. All right. But okay. Headlines. Y'all ready for some headlines? I think it's time. Here we go. Well, headlines from around the world. I know y'all just were waiting for this. And so what do we have here for my first headline of the day? Hunter attacked by big bear. But wait, there's more. Because over in Clam Falls, Wisconsin, it tells us more to the story. An unarmed bear attacked a hunter Thursday. Oh, why did they have to put that in there? Why do they have to say an unarmed bear as opposed to a hunter's out there and a bear attacked him? They had to say an unarmed bear.
It's a small bear.
He was 80 pounds.
That's small for a bear.
Yeah. I mean, here it goes on. It says an unarmed bear attacked a hunter Thursday. Dwayne Olson, 42, first shouted at an 80-pound bear so it wouldn't come any closer. Then he heard something behind him. He said he wasn't alarmed, thinking a second black bear weighing about 150 pounds would run past him. He was wrong. And he got a 4-inch gash in his right leg, puncture wounds and all that sort of stuff.
Well, so Joe says, bears do have weapons, Rambo bears,
Rambo bears out there.
And by the way, Eddie and Tammy, I do see your questions. I do tell him he's handsome. I do all the time, but I do not get the response back. And if I do it coached, I don't want to hear it coached. That's for sure.
She thinks a lot faster than I do. And then it doesn't matter because.
No, if I have to ask you to say it, it doesn't matter.
Because she's like 2 steps ahead of me. She's always ahead of me. And I'm like, well, now I can't say it. All right. Okay. Moving right along. How about this one? This is from the middle of an article. To all you hunters who kill animals for food, shame on you. You ought to go to the store and buy the meat that was made there where no animals were harmed.
Okay, that is ridiculous. Hello. Wow.
What planet do they live on?
I guess they are ahead of their time eating that meat that's being made now. That's by cancer cells.
Lab meat. They're eating lab meat. Lab created meat. To all you hunters who kill animals for food, shame on you. You ought to go to the store.
The soy meat.
Go to the store and buy the meat that was made there where no animals were harmed.
But that's a key where if you ever buy meat that was made.
Ugh. That's not good because why?
They're doing it now. So
you know why? Because they use cancer cells
to make the meat.
That they're
now putting in place of the real meat.
Yeah. And by the way, all you out in California and you like go to the high-end restaurants,
That's what they're serving.
those high-end restaurants are using chicken that's lab-made chicken.
Not real chicken.
Buyer beware. Why would they start in the high-end restaurants? Because who's going to be going there?
Because they said it's really, really expensive. I read that.
Okay. But think about this. Who's going to eat it and what's it going to do to the system? Because we're not supposed to be eating cancer cells, because what will that do to the bodies? And who has them? It's kind of like what Pol Pot did. Pol Pot got rid of the educated and the doctors, the lawyers, the university professors, the teachers, all of them. He got rid of them. He executed them. Anyone who wore glasses. Why? Because if you wore glasses, it meant that you had the ability to read. So could it be related? Let's get rid of the rich and the successful, because they might be the ones that will oppose the coming regimes.
All I know is,
or is that should that wait until maybe the uncensored news? I don't know.
We just need to be praying for land so we can have our own chickens and our own goats and our own cows, etc. Yeah.
Yeah, it's true. Yes, lab-made meat uses cancer cells. It's the fast-growing cells that and that they put and inject into the proteins so that they will multiply very quickly.
Am I going to have to erase this?
No, it's like fact. It's like out there.
There's a lot of facts that
they don't want us to say. By the way, you want to listen to the uncensored part, because we're actually going to be talking about even some things that Al Gore has said. All right, let's move on to the rest of the story. Yeah, Joe says the poor will get Soylent Green.
Yeah.
Soylent Green is
okay,
people.
Let's go to the next one.
All right. Okay. Let's go on. All right. The next one. How about talk about hunting? 3 charged in home break-in.
The deer?
They put the headline underneath the picture. If you're not watching, by the way, and you're just listening, I have an image pulled up. There's 3 deer, and right underneath it says 3 charged in home break-in. By the way, it's not uncommon. I've even heard about it down in the San Antonio area, where deer have actually broken into houses. They break out the plate glass window and come into people's homes. So it's deer do break in. Or if you leave the door open, you got lots of deer walking around your yard. They'll come in and then they don't know how to get out, but they'll break out of the plate glass window. All right. Okay. Any more comments about that one?
I have none.
None. All right. All right. So I'm watching the side notes, so we can
You're
see,
watching chat.
we can see what other people are commenting. Let's move on to the next one, because this one. We're not going to say that one. We're going to look at this one, because that other one had to be censored. We don't want to talk about that one on Lamb Network TV. But about this one, question of the day: what constitutes a millionaire? Answer: a millionaire is someone who has $1 million. According to Jerry Beto, branch manager and senior vice president of investments at A.G. Edwards & Sons. Well, if you didn't know, did you know that? Why do they have to explain that? Why is that even why is that even a question? Is that not just common sense? What constitutes a millionaire?
Most of your headlines are that way. So does it surprise you? No.
Oh, goodness. Okay, moving right along. How about this one? Deputy responding to a report of a vehicle stopping at mailboxes.
I would like to read the next line. It was the postman.
I got cut off. Yeah, it was the mailman. It's right. It's actually right here.
If you make it bigger, you can show it. Click on it. Now click on it.
Okay.
Oh no, you can't. Yeah, you did it anyway.
Yeah, it cut off.
It
Sorry.
was supposed to say it was the postman, but somebody called and said, "Hey, there's somebody stopping at mailboxes." Mm-hmm.
That's very suspicious. is that did they wake up one day and realize that the mail just doesn't appear? It's not a Star Trek episode, right? Where, you can, the mail, is that how they do it? The mail, they have this machine at get that one off the screen. Quick.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
There we go.
No, it's not there yet.
Yeah. A deputy responded to report a vehicle. It was the mailman.
It was the mailman. There we go. Okay. All right. So, so this machine is not Star Trek where they can teletransport your mail from the post office to your mailbox. Someone actually discovered that it's not a robot. It's not.
Ooh, I have a headline.
What's that?
Fort Worth has the first no human being is in the McDonald's. It is a completely AI McDonald's. That's a headline.
Robotic.
Yes. There's not one human being that's in the facility.
So they do your fries.
They cook the food.
They do your burgers. Everything is automated.
Everything from cooking the food, even to handing the food through the window. Everything is automated.
So
That's
even through the window.
Yep.
So what do they have? These arms that pick up the
I don't know. I guess you're going to have
they
to drive
sack
to
it.
Fort Worth.
They sack it and deliver it and then put it here. Grab it.
I guess you're going to have to go to Fort Worth and find out. I really don't want to.
Do you have to buy your food on through the app?
There's some through the app. I read on it, and there was some that you do through the app, and then some. It was both two different ways.
You just slide your card.
Yeah.
Stick your card in the slot as you pull up to the window.
Anyway, I have a headline. There you go. That's my headline.
Wow.
I actually told you about it, but I don't think you were listening.
Actually, I did, and I do remember you talking about that. But the fact that they have eliminated how many jobs in that restaurant?
All jobs. All jobs are gone.
I don't know. I don't know what a crew is on a normal McDonald's restaurant, but you probably have at least 15 people.
But you've got shifts, remember? So you've got that many per every shift.
Well, I'm saying there's probably about 5 people that work a normal shift in a McDonald's restaurant.
No.
And on a shift. And then in 3 shifts. Yeah, you get 15 to 20 jobs.
I would say more because then you have managers.
Except you don't have to have someone cleaning the restroom or the tables or anything. Well, maybe. No, you wouldn't, because you wouldn't have people going inside. It's all drive-through.
I don't know.
Wow.
Okay.
Think about that. Oh, we're pondering. Shall we go to Fort Worth and check it out?
No.
Okay.
It's a 6-hour drive. I don't want to do.
It's just 6 hours. It'd be a 12-hour round trip.
No.
No?
No.
Okay. All right. I got another one here. This is on a police blogger, and it says here, 10 p.m. Suspicious people were reportedly doing something with flashlights by the side of North 5th Street in Custer. I guess Custer, wherever Custer is. A deputy checked out and found out that the people were not suspicious, but merely Canadian.
The out-of-towners were enjoying an evening stroll.
They're just Canadian. They're just Canadian. They're not suspicious.
That's and love to all our Canadian family. It's just a headline.
I put that in for our Canadian family. So anybody that's watching the archives and you're from Canada, we love you. We love you, and we know you're not suspicious. You're just Canadian. I had to put that in because I know Marilyn picks up on our show. Maybe she's not with us in the chat room right now, but
we have a lot of friends in Canada.
I know, but
we got Daryl, we've got Rabbi Daryl, we've got Marilyn, we've got you could have they need to find a U.S. people, although they're just U.S. They're
not suspicious. They're Americans.
That might be suspicious.
That might be. Yeah, you got to watch out. Anyway. Don't know who's come. Okay, I'm not going to talk about the border right now. All right, how about it's done. We're done.
Well, I hope I didn't mess you up by trying to make it so they could see. I hope that's okay.
Yeah, hopefully. Yeah. Okay. So let's move.
I do want to tell you there is something called you can remove parts of your picture that you don't want.
I tried.
Do I need to show you how to do it?
I was
think I have
non-functional in that area this morning.
You push this button right there, you click, and you go, and then you won't have that on there, so it won't be an issue. Okay.
Yeah, you're right. Okay, it's time for shower thoughts. I have some shower thoughts for you today. So yeah, just stick around for this. Okay, so shower thoughts.
Hold on.
What?
And yes, to our Canadian family, Susan and Al, and we forget there are so many of our Canadian friends.
Yeah.
And many of,
and we love you. We're so glad that you're part of our community. And Susan Hoogie.
And they're even many are part of our congregation.
Yeah.
Like Al.
It's great. Yeah. So shower thoughts. Those thoughts that just ponder into your mind, or at least some people's minds. I mean, some of these I'm like, I could never thought about that in the shower. But so what happens when your mind goes free as you're rinsing the world off yourself?
Wow, you are so melodramatic.
Of course, I got to build up to it. Here's the first one. It says, it's pretty rare to use an entire pen without losing it first. On the other hand, it's pretty common to find a pen already out of ink. So it's a paradox in a way.
Okay.
See, that's one where you have to say, because I don't find empty pens, and I actually run out of ink before I lose a lot of them. I do lose some, or people, actually I don't lose them. I give my pen to somebody to use and I don't get them back. Now that happens.
I'm so sorry that you've had to deal with that trauma.
Pens are a part of my life. And here's another thing about pens. If you get the cheap pens and you've touched your paper with your hand, it won't write on the places where you touched your paper on your hands with your hands, unless you get a good pen.
Hey,
just saying.
Mark's letting you know something.
This is Mark. Cosmax is McDonald's new spin-off restaurant. Okay. Cosmax.
If he wanted to, he could always jump in here and
he could,
and give us the rest of the story.
He could give us the rest of the story on that.
That would be really awesome.
It would be. So, Mark, if you want to join us, you can. But
you don't have to.
No. Okay, let's go to the next shower thought. How about this one? Smelling is just breathing normally and thinking about it more. What's that smell?
No, I don't have to go.
Huh. That's why it's a shower thought.
Let's try to stop breathing through my nose.
Stop breathing through your nose.
It's a bad smell.
If you're a mouth breather, you'll never know. Just okay. All right. Sorry. Okay. Well, we get that, Mark. So Mark said, sorry, can't right now, but
I know, but it was just an invitation.
Yeah. How about this next?
That's always there.
Okay. All right. Let's go to the next one. How about this one? Shower thoughts. Your future self is watching you right now through memories. But then this guy's having a conversation with himself in the shower, apparently, because he says, not if I drink enough alcohol. Take that, you prying creep. I didn't know shower thoughts had a conversation going on.
Obviously, yours do.
But this one did. That's not my shower thought. It's a very interesting about your future self is watching you right now through memories. But the other part is where he's answering himself. That is creepy.
No, you answer yourself. You cannot say that unless you're creepy too.
So that one caught me off guard. I had to share it with everybody this morning. Okay. How about another one? Here's another one. And it says, why don't Jedis turn off their opponent's lightsabers by force pressing the button? That's a good shower thought. And he also has a conversation with himself. I'm laughing so hard because instead of the epic lightsaber fight, they'd just be aggressively switching them on and off. Could you imagine?
We should demonstrate. We have Jonathan has those lightsabers at church, at Life of Worship, in the youth room.
You know what? Somebody really had to ponder on that for a little bit. It's like, if they would just use their force thoughts and turn off their lightsaber, then yeah.
Joe has said, because the button is only 4.
It's only 4. We're waiting. It's only 4. Okay. All right. I know she's typing right now, so we'll finish that thought. And because we've got this one right here. If some guy was born before you and you died while he was alive, you couldn't prove he wasn't immortal.
I don't like that one.
Let me just say that again. If some guy was born before you and you died while he was alive, you couldn't prove that he wasn't immortal. You don't like that one? It's like, how do you know that he doesn't die too? All right. It's somebody's shower thought. Joe says, because the button is only for them. They use fingerprints.
Oh, okay.
Talking about lightsabers. Yeah. Or DNA. So, yeah, that's a good sci-fi brain. And last but not least, snails and slugs would be scariest things ever if they were very fast.
Well, yeah.
Especially if they were big and fast.
Just big. Even if they were slow, that would be pretty
big, fast, and slow.
No, even if they were big and slow, it'd still be pretty yuck.
Big if they were big. So, yeah, can you imagine? Well, you go to grab those snails, get them out of your garden so they don't eat your garden, and they just they zip like a mouse or something. That would be creepy.
All right.
Yeah. And like slugs. Oh, slug. In Norway, they had slugs. So those are snails without the shell, basically. But they were long. They were like this long. Ew. And they were black. And they have this big old like breathing hole on the side of them. Which is, yeah, they kind of pulse as they breathe. But
that's gross.
Yeah. It's kind of, yeah, they were big and black. Yeah, they were just kind of normal. You just pick them up and throw them away. Actually, you don't really want to touch snails. They got a poison toxin that may not be good for you.
Our cats are frolicking right now, and I'm worried that there might be gnashing of teeth soon.
All I have to say is that Sasha's feeling very good.
No.
I feel
so
good.
good.
So good.
I got you.
Yeah, she had a Seneca moment. All right, well, that's a shower thought. Just go back and think about that. Okay, so that's all the shower thoughts I have for today. I hope y'all enjoyed them. I enjoyed them. I mean, I enjoyed putting them together. Maybe people don't enjoy them so much, but we need to have a little levity in our lives.
You get to laugh and have fun with it. So
we have to have levity in our life because levity is good medicine. Laughter is good medicine. And that's why we have this part of this morning edition of Let Us Reason Together. But we have a Torah portion I'm pretty excited about. Why? Because it's the Torah portion. Torah. Exactly. So we're missing Eddie and Tammy for the Torah portion, but Sandy's got it this morning for us and covering. So here we go. If I can find the right one. Torah portion. Here we go.
My way's bad, my way is so bad. Your way's good, your way makes me glad. My way's bad, my way is so bad. Your way's good, your way makes me glad. HaTorah, HaTorah, Torah.
Well, we are going to talk about Joseph some more today. Surprise you? No, because that's part of what this Torah portion's about.
Which is called Miketz.
Anyway, so I really had this whole thing I wanted to talk about, but I think we may have to wait till Shabbat. So, because I went over it and spent most of the time getting ready with that. And I was like, nope, this is going to take too long. So this is the alternative of what we're going to talk about today. And that's about a seed war. And you'll hear me talk about that a lot, because when you look at Joseph and Pharaoh and its future prophetic meanings and its present meanings, what we're going to see is seed wars. Does that surprise us? Absolutely not. So when we go to Genesis 41, it says, then Pharaoh said to Joseph, since God has shown you all this, there is none so discerning and wise as you are. You shall be over my house, and all my people shall order themselves as you command. Only as regards the throne will I be greater than you. So here we have this allusion to Yeshua also, and the events that will carry out sometime in the future. But I want us to look at the seed war, and we're going to go look at it through the names that we see in this Torah portion. So first off, of course, we're going to start with Pharaoh or Pharaoh. And when you look at its meaning, and this is going to be brief, not like I would normally break it down. It's translated. Oftentimes it's his great house. But when you break that phrase apart, you see that Peresh and the ayin, and it indicates a leader to sprout as in progeny, to leave or to go. And then you look at the ayin vav hey root, and it means to bend and twist and pervert and distort and to ruin. So when you look at this name through the Paleo, what you have is one whose son progeny would bring perversion, distortion, and ruin. So is there a future Pharaoh that will bring distortion and perversion and ruin? I think there is. Is there a future leader that will do that? Because we can look at its fulfillment over and over again as we look at Egypt as the world, and as Egypt actually. But then, of course, you have the other side. You have Joseph. So Joseph is traditionally it's Yah will add, or has added, or Yah will has added. So you see that. But when you look at that yod prefix, it indicates a future tense. So again, we're looking at prophecy here as well. This future tense, which means he will, or he will continue to do. And then you look at the Psalmic pay root, and it looks as a threshold boundary to end or to finish. And then the cognate root shin pei is also the root of shuf. And where do we see shuf? We see shuf in Genesis 3:15, where it says, it, which is the seed of the woman, shall bruise thy head, and thou shalt bruise his feet. Again, prophetic picture of Joseph. So the meaning here is clearly that there's this struggle of authority. There's this struggle of power, one seed line over the other. Okay. So, and that's still going on. And we see that in example throughout scripture. We see Cain usurps the power over Abel, Pharaoh over the house of Joseph. And so we see in the Hebrew, it indicates this process of time in which that authority will be taken back, made to end, brought to a finish, as Yahweh increases the house of Joseph over a period of time. And I should get a woohoo on that one, because we're looking for that day when his house, Yah's house, is physically manifest triumphantly over the evil that we see for sure. Now, the sages teach that Joseph prophesied to Pharaoh and of the death of his eldest son and the birth of another as a confirmation of his ability to hear Yahweh. So could that be language that talks about Pharaoh actually adopting Joseph? Well, I think it very well could be. And I know I've talked about this before, but we look at the items that Joseph was given. And what was he done? He was given the signet ring. And what is the signet ring for? Well, it's given to the firstborn generally. It's that power and authority. It shows that you have the inheritance of Egypt, which could be the flesh. And that signet ring was given to Joseph, not his son, not anyone else. The signet ring was given to Joseph. And then he was given fine linen. And of course, that's great. But even when you look at that cognate alliteration, it's Mashi and Meshi, and that means it's translated as silk. So he's given these new garments. And we know that new garments in Hebrew always symbolize there is a new position. It's symbolizing a status change. So we get that. But we couple that with that signet ring. So could it be that Joseph is then the adopted firstborn of Pharaoh at that time? Because he is the anointed prince of Egypt, basically, or priest of Egypt even, because he said everything, nothing is above you except me. That's just me. So in ancient Near East culture, Pharaoh was considered a god, the god of the sun, right? Okay, so if he's the God of the sun, Joseph would be the son of God, become the son, S-O-N, of God, and Pharaoh, a king priest, sort of. So we look at that. Now I want us to jump to his name when it says that, and Pharaoh called his name Zephnath-Paneah. And so let's look at that for a moment, because I think we're going to see some more when we look at that. That's going to be more prophetic implications of what's happening even to us now. So let's look at, I just passed my information. So hold on just a minute. Okay. That's not what I want. So when we look at his name, one of the ways we could interpret the Zephnath-Paneah is the Zephon, meaning hidden or secret or stored treasure, and the Pa, which is like a mouth or rest or comfort. So you could look at it as that the name of Joseph would be rendered as his mouth, the God speaks and reveals secret treasures, or revelation that's been hidden, or different things like that that bring forth, maybe explain that he who explains hidden things. And you can see that in his name. And it would very much prove true, because what do we see in Joseph? In Joseph, he was able to explain hidden things. Through his mouth, he was able to bring revelation. So it reflects, it not only would reflect Pharaoh's understanding of Joseph, but it also brings forth this entire plan of Yah when you look at it prophetically, when you look at Joseph even as a picture of our Messiah in part. So let's look at that. But I want to take us to the one that was chosen as his wife. Okay. So Asenath, and that's number 8621. She is supposed to be the daughter of Potiphar. And some say that Potiphar is Potiphar. And there's this big explanation that the desire was still for that, and there was impotency involved on Potiphar's part, et cetera, et cetera. And we're not going to get into all of that minutia, but I want us to look at this with Asenath. When we translate it, it's belonging to the goddess Neth. But when you take it apart, there's another translation that means storehouses or thorns or brambles. And then the Samic Nun Hey is also the same letters that we see in Sinai or Sinai. So it's like Asenath becomes the birthplace or the womb or the storehouse of what? Of the seed of Joseph, of the seed of Joseph. She is the storehouse of the seed of Joseph. And absolutely she is, because who do we get from her and Joseph? We get Manasseh and Ephraim, right? So those two lines we can even see in ourselves to this very day. So Mount Sinai becomes the birthplace as well. When you're looking at that word, that Samic Nun Hey root, it's the same as Sanah. So she birthed the seed of Joseph, and Mount Sinai birthed the Torah, that place where we will once again gather, where we'll come together. Now, let's look at that gematria of that word, which is 116, which is Asenath. And it's the same as the plural of Lulim, which means staircase or DNA. So where else do we think about that? It's at Rephidim. Where's that located? By Sinai and Horeb, that the rock is struck, allowing the living water of its womb to bring forth life to Israel. So again, we have this picture of a womb. And when we think of a womb, we think of seed. So it's seed. We have this idea of this war that's even at that time. Who is bringing forth the seed? Who is bringing forth the life that the people are living? Who is going to bring forth the revelation of the hidden things? Well, it's our Messiah. It's Yeshua. And we see that in all of the words that are in this story. In fact, we know that every word has meaning. Every letter has meaning. So when we look at all of that,
can I just say something, because you were talking about Lulim, meaning staircase
in DNA,
and which we see in the DNA helix,
which is in the seed,
And then also on your note there, I don't know if you're going to say that, but Rephidim can mean balusters, banisters, the frameworks of a stairway. So isn't that interesting? The name of itself, Rephidim, means that. But then I go back and I think about Joseph's dream and that ladder that reaches between heaven and earth, and the angels ascending and descending on the ladder. And we've talked about it in prior Torah portions about that also being the DNA strand, that which connects us to heaven within our own biological makeup, and which is part of our seed. Our seed connects us to Mount Sinai. Our seed connects us to Joseph. Our seed, that we are the descendants of that, whether we are direct or we're grafted in, we're still all grafted in to that DNA structure that makes us human if we're connected to that which was birthed at Mount Sinai.
And that's true.
Which is the Torah, which was given at Mount Sinai. So anyway,
and the Torah is Yeshua.
Yeah.
So we have this picture of the words of Yeshua, which are Yeshua, and then we have the prophetic picture of Joseph having gone through trials and tribulation, but he is the one that leads. He is the one that brings forth truth. He is the high priest, so to speak, as we've been learning, and as well as the king, because remember, he was second only to Pharaoh. And we see this picture, but we know that go ahead.
I was just going to say this too. It goes back to the verse of the day. The verse says of the day that I spoke about earlier, where Yeshua is talking with those two on the road to Emmaus, and he's talking that it's in verse Luke 24, 27 and 44. Then beginning with Moses and with all the prophets, he explained to them the things concerning himself in all the scriptures. Now he said to them, these are my words, which I spoke to you while I was with you, that all things are written about me in the law of Moses, the Torah of Moses, and the prophets and the Psalms must be fulfilled. This takes us again back to Joseph, then to Moses, and those connections to Mount Sinai, that it was Yeshua, the word that came down on the mountain. And so it can't be deleted. We can't say that was the law for them. I mean, it just goes back to all of these connections. That's what makes us who we are.
But isn't the word seed in itself? And isn't there a battle for our words? And we battle that within ourselves too. It's a seed war.
Yeah.
Because every word that proceeds from our mouth will bring forth life or death. And we as a people have this tendency to speak words of death more than words of life, because we speak what we see instead of what we know. We speak our circumstance and our feelings instead of his truth. And that is a seed war, because by our own volition, we are bringing forth death in our circumstances, death in our life, because the word Yeshua, the word that was given on Mount Sinai, the word that was given at the beginning of time, at the beginning of creation, because that's when it officially became, that word is what wants to prevail. Yet our flesh, which is what we're supposed to have crucified, so to speak, to death to our flesh, is what oftentimes reigns. And so the seeds of death are planted by us.
Well, and think about this too, all this connects together, because it is, you said in there earlier, the revelation of the hidden.
Yes.
And where there is no expiration date on Yah's word. There's no expiration date on any of these things. So therefore it still applies. It's not for a certain group of people back then, because it's always living. It's always living. Yeshua fulfills those and is fulfilling those things. And so and it's not just for messianic prophetic purposes. It's about life, the way, the truth, and the life. So they do not expire, and they're not relegated to a particular group of people pre-first century.
And that's absolutely right. And every time we look at the word, we can't just look at it as a story that's happening back then. Whatever we're reading, it's alive, and it's going to it's showing us what's happening to us tomorrow. And as it happened yesterday and even beyond yesterday. And so it's the same with this war that we see. A new Pharaoh will come to power. A new Pharaoh will come to power that knows not the word, that knows not the revelation of the hidden, that doesn't recognize the authority of the one who brought forth the hidden word, which ultimately is Yeshua, who is the word. And so there's a new Pharaoh in our life that's there, that's going to come to power, or already is working that direction, that is going to bring persecution to those who stick to the true word and the true way, that acknowledge not the ways of Pharaoh and the rest of the world. And we see this here. So right now, the Pharaoh here has adopted Joseph. The Pharaoh here has made Joseph second only to Pharaoh himself, second only to the father himself. So we have this picture, but that only lasts for a time.
So really, when we look at this, how can we understand a future Pharaoh without understanding these points that you're bringing out? We won't recognize that. What did you say earlier about Pharaoh and breaking down his name? And it means what did you say? But basically,
I'm getting there.
Okay, we're going to go back to those notes right there. What is it means? Twisted, perverted, distorted, ruin. So we have a connection.
One whose sons or progeny would bring, but they would also be a Pharaoh.
Yeah. So think about that. So how do we recognize, even in our lives now, a future Pharaoh, or it could be a Pharaoh that we are familiar with, but don't recognize him as an anti-Messiah type of character, other than recognizing this pattern that's been set before us. And
perversion, distortion, and ruin. The big thing about perversion and distortion means that that you can't see clearly. Deception is that picture that you think you're right, or you think you're on track, but if you're deceived, what's wrong, you consider what's wrong right.
It looks real
because it looks like the real thing.
Yeah. And again, that picture of why people would mistake the coming of Messiah for another person. And that's a whole nother element there.
Well, and we cannot forget that Joseph got a Gentile bride. And Joseph's line, again, is what? Ephraim and Manasseh. And so there's this birthing that's involved in the seed line. And we can look at it macro on a level of the world, Egypt, Babylon versus Yeshua's kingdom. But we can also come and look at it within us. What are we wombing? Again, it goes back to our words. It goes back to our thoughts. It goes back to life or death. Do our thoughts and our words align with the world? Do our thoughts and words align with the enemy? Because if they align with the world, they align with Hasatan. Or do our thoughts and our words align with his word? Are we taking our position as kings and priests, taking up our inheritance, the word, Yeshua, taking up and being his, not only his bride, but even the progeny, so to speak, in that we are also sons and daughters, and we're supposed to be bringing forth the kingdom. But it's a seed war. It's a seed war that can be seen on so many levels, and yet we have this tendency to really deviate and become the mouth, which you look at that in Pharaoh, that we become the mouth of the Pharaoh instead of the mouth of the king,
which is
of the true king.
So Yeshua gave us the parable about the seed that the farmer sowed. So the seed, and he explains it as the seed is the word. And then we have that asenath, which comes from the root asna, which means either storehouse or thorns and brambles. So
You get
what do you put in a storehouse?
There's a blessing or curse on each word that's in Hebrew.
And in a storehouse is
name.
where you put your seed. You store your seed in the storehouse. Now, what type of seed is in there? And you can have good seed that bears much fruit, or it can be, so you think about the field, the parable about the wheat and the tares. What is sown, the seed is taken out of the storehouse and put into the field, and in that field will either bear the fruit of the wheat, or it'll bear the fruit of the tares. And then, but they look the same. They look similar. They're not the same.
But that's
they
why
look
you could be
similar
because they look so similar.
And so here, even in the story of Joseph's wife, what points us to Mount Sinai and the giving of the Torah, that seed that is the good seed, or if we twist the message through, and it becomes this storehouse of thorns and brambles or tares, then we will not put it in the right category. And that's how we get these people that are New Testament only. That's how we nullify the word in our own life, because we'll mix the seed of the enemy with our own words, saying, yes, I believe the word, and yet the words of our mouth will expose what we really believe.
Because Asenath represents the womb, just as Sinai represents the womb. And our mind, because that's where the battle is the womb.
Mm-hmm. So the womb is also the storehouse.
The womb can be the storehouse of riches, of life that's brought forth,
or
it can bring forth death.
Or if we've harvested a bunch of weeds, we're going to have those weed seeds.
But that's why we're to take every thought captive.
Yeah, and that's why we have to discern and make sure we're planting the good seeds. And then the seeds that bear fruit is what comes out of our mouth, because out of the abundance of our heart, again, there's the storehouse or the womb, out of the abundance of our heart, really is what reveals what is truly in there, what type of seed is in there. So out of the bunch of our heart, let me finish it, our mouth speaks.
So when we're looking at this whole picture with Joseph, we're bringing forth the revelation of the hidden, or secrets, revealer of secrets, or all things along that line. And Brown Driver Briggs lexicon defines it as a treasury of glorious rest. And we see that it's significant that Joseph was given the bride he was given. Why? Because the Gentile bride had grown up with the traditions and the devotions to the sun god, so to speak, Ra. And the name Potiphar means he whom Ra gave. Therefore, we shouldn't be surprised at what you've already spoken, but I'm saying it in a different way, that Yeshua's bride was duped into celebrating the things of the sun, the sun, instead of the sun. Now, why would the bride celebrate the things of the sun? Well, she hasn't been the bride that's got her clothes ready yet, but for sure, that deception is so easily fallen into when you're not in the word and you're not digging it out as kings and priests. So what does this tell us? It tells us that we have to line up with him and remember everything that has happened to the fathers happens to the sons. And there is a day that already is where we may, especially in Western countries, we've lived well in the land of Egypt. But the deceptive voices and the seed war has gotten to a point now where those that have been blessed and have been walking in Yah's voice are being persecuted, killed, driven away, so to speak, or even caused to have their hearts turned, because a king that's desire is to bring complete destruction to the way things have been, and to the life of anyone who would oppose it. it's come to fruition.
Okay, it makes
just
me...
as it did before, when all of the Hebrew people and their roots in Egypt were forgotten, where Joseph was forgotten.
Yeah, which reminds me and takes me back to the 3rd century, because by 3 centuries after Yeshua, and we have Constantine, and Constantine is another type of pharaoh, and he brings together the Council of Nicaea. Later on, we see the Council of Laodicea, which both of those councils nullified that word. And so another pharaoh came on the scene and destroyed that which was already set in place, destroying the Hebraic roots of our faith. And they created a new religion around the sun god, Mithra. And so that pharaoh, which was Constantine the emperor, who supposedly gets this revelation at the rising of the sun, and by that sign is how he would defeat his enemies, and that's how he unified all of his empire, creating this religion where they, we know the history of that, but they said anybody then who keeps the Sabbath, who keeps the feast days, who eats clean, would continue to be persecuted. But if you just follow this new way that we're looking at it, then you won't be persecuted anymore. Well, that's pretty tempting for a lot of people when persecution was quite prominent during the day. So people abandoned their faith, taking a similar type of faith, but they denied the power thereof, and they adopted a government imposed religion. And in it was the brambles, the thorns, the bad seed, a storehouse that has been promulgated through another 1800 years. And so, we fight the seed war. Again, it's another seed war, as you started out talking about, the battle of the seed. The enemies sowed a lot of tares, and yet it's so intertwined with the good seed that it's only Yah that can separate those in the very end.
Yes.
So okay. Sorry.
For portions of discussion, we got it.
Okay. All right. Good stuff, Sandi, bringing that up.
If you heard what I wanted to bring up, that's where
So, all right. So maybe Shabbat at Life of Worship, just a shameless plug, but join us over on the Life of Worship channel, Life of Worship Ministries on YouTube, and be part of that this coming Shabbat. Okay, well, that's it for now. We're going to have to jump over to the Uncensored News. So we're going to drop off YouTube and continue on lamnetwork.tv and Twitch. So we'll see you on the other side. Shalom.
We are richly blessed to bring you what we believe is the fullest, most diverse, yet up-to-date progressive teachings, discussion, and prayer programming you can find anywhere on this planet. Be sure to take the tour of the MessianicLambRadio.com website. I'm Susan Hoogie, thanking you for joining us on the Messianic Lamb Video Network.